What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, Aaron's Marvelous World. Man, guys, I am over the moon excited for this new movie, Spider-Man No Way Home. Dude, I am. Sorry, I gotta do full goblin. I am super excited about this film, and I know that it is going to be a culmination of everything that has come before it. It is going to be the most spectacular, extraordinarily amazing Spider-Man film I've ever seen. And based on critics and reviews, I have them to back me up. So I'm not wrong. I'm completely right. And in the right to say that it is the greatest Marvel movie ever made. Or is going to be after I see it. But, anyways, today I'm going to do a quick video. What I mean by quick is probably not make it longer than 20 minutes, which I've never done before. It'll be a 10 to 20 minute video. It is going to be a prediction slash breakdown of, what I am going to expect from this Spider-Man 3 film. So, I'm going to start with, this is kind of the breakdown section. I kind of got that backwards. I'm going to start by breaking down all the film adaptations I have seen from all the trilogies and the two movies that Tobey Maguire and now Tom has done. So I think that you guys will learn more about this character after you're done. Maybe some things you can take away from this video that you've never thought of before, or things that um, you know you can kind of dive deeper into. So let's start right now. So I began, of course, I watched all the movies in order, and I started with Spider-Man 1, featuring William Dafoe as the titular character of Green Goblin. And I think that this was a perfect origin story, and I want to say it was the appropriate way to introduce Peter Parker as a normal guy who just wanted to get the girl. And he was a quirky nerd who also, wanted to be cool in her eyes. So he just was the guy that we all are, going through high school, not popular, just kind of going through the motions and wanting more out of life. And I think that this film really touches on all the right and hits on all the right notes of what it means to be Peter Parker. From that scene of the close-up shots that Sam Raimi made famous, of all the minute details we wouldn't think or would matter, but we look for those now in these Sam Raimi films. And I think that after that scene, it really just got everything right. After the scene where he beat up the bully that he had, gone through so much hell with during high school. And I think that really showed his character in his true colors, and what his character would really mean. He wanted to do the right thing, but he didn't always do it in the right way. And I think that what Green Goblin wanted Peter to know was that he could be the hero, but he's also going to be hated for it. They want to see him fall in the end. That's what people love. What they love more than a hero is to see a hero fall, die trying. The famous line. And I really love that William Dafoe is kind of, he plays like a philosopher, but also the kind of crazy maniac who, wanted his company and wanted everything to go his way. You know, he was a realist. He had a good view on the world, but it became tainted after he lost everything. And I know that movie really was a great way to show the sacrifice of what it means to be a hero, as we'll see further down the line in the other films. But Peter Parker was a hero, and he was going to do the right thing no matter what it took and no matter how much he would lose. And we know that, MJ, it was all about her, as he said. It's all about a girl, Mary Jane Watson. But without without him knowing who he was, him going after MJ, wouldn't it wouldn't be as important to us, and it wouldn't hold as much weight. So we know that he was perfect for this role, Tobey Maguire, to be precise. So the next film, which is my favorite of the first three films, which I think is many people's favorite, is their favorite, and Alfred Mullaney plays the infamous Dr. Otto Octavius, and basically in that movie he is a guy, he's a brilliant scientist who wants to do the right thing, like Peter does. He wants to use his scientific knowledge and brilliance to bring change to the world. And what he has is this power source, this incredible power source capable of changing life on Earth, and it can, make the world better and make people more in tune with the technology and what there is out there. And his character really goes through a lot. He loses his wife. He loses that power source. He loses the ability to control his arms, which is the turning point of the plot. And it really shows how much he gets screwed. But it doesn't show more of him getting screwed than it does Peter Parker. What this film does a brilliant job of, more than any other comic book film I've ever laid my eyes on, is it shows how much a hero can get screwed if he really cares. And this is just a perfect movie in that regard. It really shows how much the life of his hero can suck. And I love that about this film. It doesn't have a filter. It goes all in. It basically just throws up crap all over the floor for Peter to slip on. And I think that it's a brilliant movie in that regard, and Sam Raimi does a brilliant job making this scene scary and very weighty. It's a very weighty film. And that last scene where Doc Ock says, "I will not die a monster," really, it perpetuates and really embodies who he was as a character and how much courage and determination both of those characters had throughout the whole film. If the first movie was about sacrifice, this movie was about the courage it takes to be a hero. So, brilliant. I give the first one 8 out of 10. The second one I give 8.5 out of 10. So, the next one, the most controversial of the three, is Spider-Man 3, featuring Topher Grace as Venom, and what's his name? Thomas Christensen. Yes, I think that's his name. Christian Thomas. I always forget his name, but he's a brilliant version of Sandman, and he just wants to do the right thing for his daughter. He wants to supply himself with money so he can pay for her hospital bills so she can get better, which is a very noble thing to do. He's a great father. In his heart of hearts, like you said, he just had bad luck. He's not a bad person. He just had bad luck. So I think that if that movie was just solely a Sandman movie and they needed Harry, but if he was able to convince Harry that, he didn't kill his father, which we all know he didn't, he killed himself, he would have been able to just fight off Sandman, and that way they could have just resolved the issue of Venom, which was very bad because they didn't need to literally shoot the Venom down from outer space, attach him to Topher Grace, and then make a blah character who just wanted power just for the sake of power and revenge, I guess, because Peter stole his girl in the emo scene, which who wasn't really his girl to begin with, but they wanted to make beef out of nothing. They wanted to make beef out of a uncrusted sandwich. That's all I'm gonna say. They wanted to make a sandwich that didn't really have any meat or weight on it, so it was just a bland sandwich without any crust. And I think that film could have been way better if they would have just swung for the fences with Sandman because he was a great character. Anyways, enough with that one. I give that one a lot better than most people give it because, for one reason, it shows what a Spider-Man film can be on a grandiose scale if done right. Like, it really shows a lot of things you can get right, but it also shows a lot of bad things, which only was Venom. Venom was the only bad thing, so I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It wasn't an 8 like the original or the greatness of the second one, but it was a good Spider-Man film. Just get out Venom, kick him out. Same for Tom Hardy. Anyways, that leads me to the turnover with Sony featuring Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, Peter Parker. And in that one, Lizard is the main villain, played by the actor who's so good. He was in Game of Thrones, and he is one of the best actors, probably, to villain actors. He's very good at being evil. And that movie was great at exploring his past. Was showing, I think, a lot of who Peter was. It really needed us to gauge and get a grasp on that Peter is a kid who was left and basically abandoned, and he didn't have anybody to turn to besides his aunt and uncle, so he really struggled to find himself. But I think that after a while, he really began to, in the form of becoming Spider-Man. And I know that it wasn't very popular, especially with him and Emma Stone. They had great chemistry, but that was also the main problem in that first film, too much kissy face. And I get it's high school, and I get at least it's not the soap opera, corny lines of, punch me, I'd bleed, like Tobey Maguire. But you know what I mean. They had great chemistry, but he wasn't dorky enough. He was too cool. Skateboarding, really. Sony, really. I mean, that was a sick scene, and I know his feet stick to anything, but really, he's that good of a skater. Anyways, I like the plot of him being like Doc Ock, how he had this brilliant mind, and he just wanted to help better mankind with his arm, his cross-species genetics. I call it the arm serum, where his arm grows and he basically forms it looks like a freaking hand that's been, in an egg forever. All that sappiness, and it's just really nasty, but it's a great idea. They just didn't hit on all the right notes with the love story and with relying too much on his past. But I think they could have gotten it better if the plot wasn't about the lizard turning the whole city into a bunch of giant lizards, which is completely ridiculous because no one wants to be a lizard. Sure, you'll be super powered, but you'll look like a freaking lizard, and no one wants that. Even how cool and sexy you could say that the lizard looks, no one wants to be a lizard throughout the whole day. It's just not going to work out. Sorry. Anyways, that leads me to my personal favorite of the Andrew movies, which is the second one. And I think that one hit it out of the park with Electro. Jamie Foxx was perfectly casted. He was very, very convincing as a eccentric / almost, it seemed like, disabled character, where he had these mental kind of just more like delusions of grandeur, meeting Spider-Man and feeling empowered because of Spider-Man and who Spider-Man was, and that made him feel better about himself, especially after he met him. So I think if they made that solely an Electro film, it would have been much better. I don't think Harry Osborn was needed as much as he was needed in the first three films. I mean, he was his best friend. He was always there for Peter, and even at the end, he even joined forces with Peter after his time, trying to kill Peter in the original trilogy. But this one, he wasn't really necessary. I mean, his dad was dying, and this was the comic book version of the Goblin that actually, had claws, and it was some weird name, weird disease, genetic deformity that I guess the Osborn name has. It goes down the line, and he just wasn't necessary. He was very evil and maniacal, like William Dafoe, but it was in a more, I guess, tainted way. And the aspect of him, wanting to get and retrieve Spider-Man's blood to heal him didn't really make a lot of sense. But I understand that his father, they worked to Peter's father and his father worked together, and it could have worked, but it didn't. So he turned into Goblin, and you know the rest. Gwen Stacy dies, as was made famous in the comics for falling off the bridge or the tower, and that was that. And I think that the future of Spider-Man was made pretty clear. Like he was gonna have to go it alone without Gwen Stacy by his side, maybe without his aunt as much being a core character, core piece in that franchise. But I think that the idea of Rhino and having the Gentleman, who actually assembled the original Sinister 16 in the comics, was a great idea. They just missed because that could have been better off having Electro star in that film and then introducing the Sinister, because Electro is a great character by himself. With that electricity, as I love, that was my favorite scene when he had the music and he's going through all those wires and electrical cables. I love that scene. But let's move on. Homecoming, which I just saw the other day. Homecoming is probably the most well written, as a matter of fact, of all the Spider-Man films so far, because it really shows what an interconnected universe can be, like the advantages of having a character that's already been introduced in another movie, which was Spider-Man in Civil War, which is really awesome because Tony Stark got to know him and become his mentor figure instead of Uncle Ben, which I like because I was tired of seeing Uncle Ben dying on screen, even though it was only twice, that we didn't need to see it again. But what I love about that movie was all he was trying to do was be Tony Stark. Like, he wasn't trying to be exactly Tony Stark, like not make the rash decisions, even though he did make a lot of brash, uneducated decisions that led to disastrous results. But he really wanted to do the right thing and be treated like an adult and be the hero. And I think that they got that right, which was awesome because Vulture was sick. He was the best villain, I think, other than Doc Ock so far in this Spider-Man world, besides probably him and Green Goblin. And because he wanted to do, scrap like a vulture, he wanted to literally collect all the scraps left from the 2012 Avengers battle scene in New York, which was sick, which was awesome. A perfect way to show what was the after effects of that world. So I love that. And I also loved how they had the Prowler, the Tinkerer, Shocker, and Scorpion, who was introduced in the credit scene, and that could have been a Sinister Six on its own. So that was sick. I give that movie, I'd say I put it right in the same level as Spider-Man 2, maybe a little, but it's better written, so I'm going to give it an 8.6. That was my favorite Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. Next is, which I saw yesterday, Far From Home, which is my all-time favorite Spider-Man movie, which is pretty cool, sick, considering that it comes right after on the tails of the success of Endgame, and it just totally embodies who Peter Parker and Spider-Man are. This one, he wants to be a kid, which, if you think about it, Spider-Man kind of wants to have his own life throughout the franchise. He doesn't want to always have to fight all the big bads and, take care of every situation as it arises.